This is breaking news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, sponsored by Michael Gaughan's South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Edward Kane, Public Defender.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Kane. You'll be marked as attorney, not of record, but as a friend of the
Understood,
court
Your Honor.
for Valdez Jimenez. Mr. Shetler, you as well?
Your Honor, yes, thank you. Shetler 4747. After speaking with Mr. Tellis, I can confirm his counsel for this afternoon.
Understood, and that will be reflected in the record. Mr. Scow?
Thank you. It's my request that pursuant to NRS 178.484 that he be held without bail pending his initial appearance in justice court. The statute says that a person arrested for murder first degree may be admitted to bail unless there's proof evident or presumption great, and then a finding by yourself that the evidence, the nature, and circumstances of the offense are such that the conviction is likely. And so based on the statute, I'm going to highlight some of the evidence and the nature and circumstances of the case that justify a no bail hold on this case. The victim, 69-year-old Jeff German, was stabbed 7 times, and we don't know everything at this point, but what we do know, there's a history of articles written by Mr. German regarding the defendant and his time in the public administrator's office. Months after losing the primary, I believe as a direct result of these articles, highlighting the misfunctioning in the office as well as an illicit relationship with a coworker, the victim is found stabbed 7 times on September 2nd. Video tracks maroon Denali in the neighborhood, casing the house, the driver seen getting out of the vehicle, going to the victim's house. The victim, Jeff, comes out of his house and is attacked by the defendant, stabbed 7 times. And based on the vehicle, the police locate the vehicle. It matches a vehicle owned by the defendant's wife. Based on their investigation and the DNA recovered from the victim's hands under his fingernails, they do identify the DNA as the defendant's. And so they know he's the suspect. They didn't know this at the time of his interview. They had to release him. But they did learn that shortly after the interview, and they go to take him into custody. He barricades himself for a short time, and when the SWAT goes in, they do find him with superficial cuts on his arms. But the nature and circumstances, see, that's the evidence. The nature and circumstances, again, are the articles written. He left his cell phone at his residence. He went fully covered, a wide-brimmed hat, long-sleeve shirt, pants in 110-degree weather. He cased the neighborhood for over an hour. He hid in his vehicle on the side of the house. And again, with the published articles regarding a public figure in the public administrator's office, it ruined his political career, likely his marriage, and this was him lashing out, the defendant lashing out at the cause of the unraveling of his life at this point. So we're asking that he be held no bail pursuant to NRS 178.484 according to the facts and circumstances as laid out in the report. Thanks.
All right, thank you, counsel. Do you want to respond today?
Your Honor, I would reserve my response to that. I did explain to Mr. Tellis that was what we were going to do today, is wait until we come back to court.
Sure, absolutely, and I would imagine the facts will probably be fleshed out further by both parties in the case. I do have to make a finding, however. I am going to order the defendant detained based on NRS 178.484, specifically subsection 4. Being that the facts that I have before me in the 4-page report, which were the only facts I considered as far as probable cause for the open murder and the degree of murder, which I did find the proof is evident and presumption is great, primarily based on the vehicle used that appears to have driven to the victim's home, from the defendant's home, and then back to the defendant's home. During the time of the murder, the fact that, according to this report, it's alleged that the defendant's cell phone was, activity was terminated immediately prior to the time of the murder, during the murder, and right after the murder. The fact that Metro allegedly discovered during the execution of the search warrant a pair of shoes and hat that matched those depicted in the surveillance. Also, of course, incredibly suggestive as it relates to proof is evident and presumption great is quite chilling as well. The defendant's DNA is alleged to have been recovered from the hands of the victim, presumably during the time in which he was fighting for his life, which was supported by the report indicated on page 2. He had several defensive wounds on his hands and arms, the victim that is. And lastly, as it relates to the first-degree murder, it appears from this report, Mr. Tellis was waiting and called the victim over to the side of his own home, and according to this surveillance, ended up mounting the victim, and of course he suffered injuries and then death. And so that's the finding I make for my order of detention. Mr. Shetler, we'll give you a turnaround date of next week, and like I said, you can further address it at that time.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
September 13th, Department 7, 7:30 a.m.
I'd ask the provisional appointment in my office be set aside, and I doubt that any discovery will find its way to me, but if it does, I'll be sure to get it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Canis. Good seeing you.
Thank you.
You too, Mr.
Thank you.
Shetler. Take care.
Your Honor.
Where's the duty time?
attorney's coming up.
You've been watching breaking news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, sponsored by Michael Gaughan's South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa.